If you're anything like me, you don't enjoy an off week. You always want to be playing. And luckily, we're playing this Saturday, and it's a big one.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. And Jimmy, our long week, 7-day nightmare is over. No more off week. Yeah. And this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Thanks for making us your first listen. Appreciate you guys a ton. The off week is over, and I think what we can do now is now we can officially have some mid-season thoughts. And I thought it was interesting. I wanted to do this anyway. But I don't mind cheating a little bit, or at least playing off of this on your website.
All right, Harbaugh.
What now?
She said, I don't mind cheating. And I said, all right, Harbaugh.
Oh, me, that's still funny. I mean, I don't know why they don't just get hammered right now. I mean, we'll talk about that later. But your website, Bama Online, came out with their mid-season superlatives. And I just have some comments about this. I don't mind the categories. I think the categories are great. I think it's kind of weird they had the offensive MVP as J.C. Latham. Look, Latham's been really good. I think he's been All-American worthy. I'm also not going to pretend that I study offensive linemen very much in film review. I'm also not going to pretend I do film review. I rewatch games that CBS and ESPN put on. I don't have film. So I just thought it was weird to say it's J.C. Latham when I think you could make a very clear argument that, okay, the MVP, and I would call him offensive, even though you'd say more special teams, would be Will Reichard. Or I think you have to go Jalen Milroe because it's just – that just seemed right.
With the skill players, yeah, Milroe. But I saw some stats this morning – courtesy of a fine poster at BOL HC Banker, and I think he got this from Pro Football Focus primarily. But I at first blush agreed with you that I'm not sure about Clint Lamb's choice of Latham as offensive MVP is correct. But after looking at these stats this morning, I'm now firmly believe that it should be Latham. Latham has given up virtually 0 sacks, which it's hard to do when the offensive line's given up 35. I think Latham's given up like 1 sack all year. And in the run game, I knew Alabama was what we call right-handed in the run game, meaning that Alabama wants to run the ball right because they run the ball better right than they do left. I knew that. What I didn't know was the extent of it. Alabama rushes for almost 2 yards better when they run right than left. 2 full yards. That is J.C. Latham. That's why that works. Alabama's run game, put it this way, as HC did, Alabama's run game to the right is actually just as good as Tennessee's run game to the right, and Tennessee leads the whole league. Tennessee, when they run to the right, Alabama runs to the right, identical. When Tennessee runs to the left, there's no drop-off for them. For Alabama, it's a tremendous drop-off, and that's why Alabama isn't amongst the top rushing attacks in the league. Okay. And that cinched it for me because I knew it was there. I didn't know it was that significant until this morning. So I appreciated that look.
Okay. Then they put just top freshmen. Now, they don't qualify this as top freshmen offensively, but I'm feeling like they just forgot about Caleb Downs, because here's what he said. He actually says, I mean, who else are you going to go with here? Jalen Hill, the first-year wide receiver, has been good at times, but his role has been so inconsistent. Now, look, I'm not down on Caden Proctor at all. I think Caden Proctor is going to be very good. He is taking his lumps right now. He is doing, when you talk about folks that have to, hey, he's paid his dues, Caden Proctor is paying dues right now. Now, in fact, he's probably paying more dues than he needs to, but I think it's going to make him better in the end. I think he's taking some serious lumps right now to be awesome when he's a sophomore. But I mean, am I way off saying the best freshman is Caleb Downs? He leads the league. Leads the team in tackles.
Oh, there's no question that was either some sort of misprint or confusion talking about offensive freshman MVP maybe, because that would be tougher. But on offense, the best freshman is Caden Proctor, and I know what I just said. I know what I just said makes it sound like Proctor's been bad. Frankly, he hasn't been good. Frankly, he's one of the weak links of the offense and in the offensive line. That's true. But I couldn't agree more with what Lucas said. It is sort of a, hey, this is the best we got for now. And the payoff is 2024 and 2025. He is going to be a better player for this. And I think struggling is going to provide some off-season juice for him in terms of the weight room and strength and conditioning. And I think he's going to have a great 2024. And as much as I was just bragging on Latham and saying, hey, Latham's probably the best player on offense, and I think Latham's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft next spring. I really do. I think we'll be saying the same thing about Proctor, and we will be – I don't know if we'll be laughing about it, Luke. I don't know that we'll be chuckling or laughing, but when Proctor is a first-round pick, we need to bring up 2023 and say, whew, he got off to a rough start. But that's why most true freshmen don't play, right? And I'm going to forever use Proctor as an example, Luke, of all in the summertime when our fans get super excited about this true freshman and that true freshman. I'm going to say, well, Caden Proctor. I mean, most true freshmen aren't Caleb Downs. Most true freshmen aren't even Caden Proctor, and it's just a struggle for 18-year-olds to play in this league. It's a struggle.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And look, here's my thing about Caden Proctor. And again, I readily admit he's taking his lumps. I also think if I were ranking true freshmen playing for Alabama, I would rank him second. Because there isn't another person to put there. Maybe if you want to say Hale, or if you want to maybe throw out James Smith, but I mean, we haven't been calling his name.
I'm excited about a lot of these freshmen.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a lot of impactful guys. I would say Jalen Hale will be up there, and his impact was really one game.
It's been minimal.
It's been minimal. Yeah. Now it was big, and we probably don't beat Ole Miss without Hale, but yeah, it would be Downs, and then it would be Proctor, and then it would be a Cliff. And really it's just in terms of not many making major and that's because, the roster's pretty deep. We're better than the critics and cynics, even in our own fan base, say. And it's hard to get in the lineup right now because we have mostly really good players.
And here's the other thing about Proctor. Proctor, to me, is like if you're a poker player and you sit out at a table and you're like, I'm a pretty good poker player. But you sit down and like you take some hits initially, but you're setting up something for later. You're letting people think they found a tell on you. You're letting people see something, and you're like, this is, if I just keep playing, if I go slow and steady, I'm going to win this thing in the end. And then by the end of the night, you're up $1,000 because what you did was you gave some, you had to learn some things. You had to learn some tells from other people too. But once you figured it all out, you were a superstar. And I think that's what he's going to be too. So I'm cool with that. And one other thought, I'm not going to go through all their superlatives, but one other thought, you keep saying this, and it's very astute that, okay, people still kill Alabama, and it's mostly because they're comparing us to Alabama of the past. What game did you watch yesterday? Maybe with the exception of Georgia. Georgia looked pretty good. I think we need to quit saying Georgia's vulnerable. They're pretty good. Until somebody beats them, makes them lose, then I think we need to quit just saying they're vulnerable. They're good. But name another game yesterday. Ohio State, Wisconsin. Ohio State has the best wide receiver in college football, and it's not close. And they really had to escape Wisconsin. I know they won by 14, but they scored late, and there were a lot of things that Wisconsin could have done differently to make that game a lot closer. Oklahoma gets beat. I know this in the top 10 team.
Washington should have got beat.
Washington should have been beaten the last 2 weekends. Mm-hmm. Just throw out Penn State.
Penn State doesn't look very good right now.
They don't look good. I know I just want to say this because I know they're not a threat anymore, but USC looks god-awful. Jeez. Lincoln Riley, man, dude, get yourself a defense or at least pump fake it one. This is awful. Cal is putrid offensively. But anyway, what I'm saying is while everybody is still saying, Alabama doesn't look great, nope, we don't. That's 100% correct. It is also correct that nobody looks great, and Georgia may look the best of the bunch, but even they look the worst of the recent Georgia teams. So I'm just saying that while everybody, I have a problem. I went to a party last night, and I had two people, one of them who listens to the podcast, he might be listening today, said, we got to do something about this Milroe problem. I said, guys, let me tell you something. I said, I get it. I get, if you want to say A.J. McCarron and Jake Coker and Blake Sims and Hurts and Tua and Mac Jones and Bryce Young, and you want to say that Jalen Milroe is worse than every one of those, I'm with you. I get it. I'm hear you. Now, what I'll also say is he's clearly our best option, and you could make a very valid argument he's the second best quarterback in the SEC, and they started saying, well, I'd take the guy at Missouri over him. I was like, would you? Because I'm going to tell you something. The guy at Missouri may be dead behind this offensive line. I don't know how many people can take the hits that Jalen Milroe is taking. I'm not taking a shot at the offensive line. I'm just saying I think you need to give Milroe more credit. And they were like, well, he doesn't throw the ball away enough. I'm like, true. But I've been saying this on our podcast for a while. His ceiling keeps going up, and his floor remains stagnant. What else can we ask of this kid? And I think, and here's the other thing, that if Jalen Milroe becomes a success story, if like this team wins a championship of any description, I think people need to recognize, hey, the world thought Jalen Milroe was transferring, and he stuck it out. And somebody needs to tell him thank you. But we'll talk about that more as the weeks go on.
And more importantly, I'm 100% convinced. I mean, sometimes you have opinions, and so I'm 100% convinced if Jalen Milroe had been injured in week 1 or benched or whatever, Jalen Milroe was not the quarterback for Alabama in 2023, we would not be 7-1. You might be able to talk me into being 6-2, but honestly, we're 5-3 or 4-4 without Milroe. And by without Milroe, like, yeah, we'll change him out with Drake May. No, I'm talking about reality, planet Earth. On planet Earth, with that QB room that we've got, take Milroe out and throw Simpson out there, throw Buckner out there, throw Lonergan out there. Right now, we're 4-4. Maybe 5-3 would be the smartest pick, but you could make 6-2. Maybe with LSU, Kentucky, and Auburn to come, all losable games, particularly with a lesser quarterback. So I don't understand any Milroe talk anymore in the sense to me that, yeah, he's way less than perfect. He's flawed. He's still inexperienced. He's still improving. He's still not an answer to all of our woes by any means. But this is the best we've got, and the kid is improving every week.
Look, when I was in Ellick City, when I was growing up, I was fat, I was ugly, I had glasses, and so I can talk about fatness because now I'm getting fat again. So I mean, I've like relapsed into chunkiness. But my point is, when I was about 13 or 12, I got my first girlfriend, and I couldn't believe anybody wanted to do anything with her. Her name was Stacy Stacy Wyatt, very nice girl. I doubt she listens to the podcast. I haven't seen her in God knows how long.
She's a hero.
Yeah. Anyway, I think she dated me on something from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But anyway, would I have rather dated Farrah Fawcett at the time? You dang right I would have. She wasn't an option.
Stacy. Hello, Farrah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an option. At the time, Stacy Wyatt was interested in me, and now she ultimately broke up with me after like 2 weeks, but it counts. And I was like, that's what Jalen Milroe is. We have to love what we got, and he's not bad. And Stacey White was a pretty girl back when I was 12 or 13. So I was lucky to get what I got. But if Farrah Fawcett had come around, you dang right I would have, and Farrah Fawcett been like, I love chunky 12-year-olds. I would have been all in that. Badly, but I would have done it. And anyway, I don't know where the heck I'm going with this. I do know where I'm going. I don't know why I put the Gametime overlay up there. I like Gametime, but I'm not supposed to talk about Gametime right now. Gametime. I'm supposed to talk about Athletic Brewing. So I'm going to do that instead because that's the live read I'm supposed to be doing. Look, now it's time for your Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like, and since Alabama didn't play, this is maybe a tougher call, but I'm still going to go with Will Reichert. I think I'm telling you, it's the first time in Alabama history that I've wanted to name a kicker our MVP, and I 100% believe it, and I think all y'all believe it too, even if you don't want to admit it. But much like Will Reichert, Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. These things are awesome. I love them. And look, because I get emails from them, because I follow them on Facebook, and you can too on social media, I get to see some of their new flavors and things. They're fantastic. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. They're full of flavor. They're well-crafted, and just like a full-strength beer, their brews are great tasting and award-winning and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew over 50 styles of craft, non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden sours, and more. They are constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety, and they're fit for all time. So you can drink them anywhere, anytime, make any activity even more enjoyable, like watching a big game or at your kid's game or tackling work or working out or whatever, and no hangovers. I can't tell you how big of a plus that is after this past weekend I've had. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at stores near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company is fit for all times. Also want to tell you about eBay Motors. Look, we've been sponsored by eBay Motors for quite some time now. We really do appreciate their being a part of the Locked On family, and specifically when it comes to Locked On Bama. Y'all need to go check out eBay Motors. Look, passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're in speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 22 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with guaranteed fit from eBay, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, you're not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that big old win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. USA. Jimmy, Gameday is coming back. You know, I predicted this, and people thought I was nuts. But Gameday is coming back to Alabama LSU, and I think it's great. I wanted to throw this out there. But I love the little-known facts of Gameday. Gameday now is such an institution in college football. It's
30 years on the road.
It's really good. I mean, I know it's been watered down a little bit because Fox has a version and SEC Network has a version, but I mean, our main man, Reese Davis, and the crew are still number one in my book. I like Mark Ingram. I assume he's still doing it with Fox. I don't watch the Fox one because I'm usually not going to watch whatever it's leading into. And plus, I like Reese Davis. But, all right, Ohio State leads with 58 appearances on Game Day. Including this upcoming one, we have 56. So we're number 2. We have only hosted 18 times. Now, what I need to confirm, and I didn't have enough time to confirm for this, I think hosted means actually in Tuscaloosa.
Correct.
Not like
I would assume.
Maybe in Birmingham too, but I don't know. And it seems
I would think Birmingham for sure.
Okay.
But obviously that hadn't happened a long time. But I remember it happening. I remember Game Day coming to Birmingham.
Our record on Game Day is 35-20. Of course, we lost one earlier this year.
That's actually really good. People don't understand how good that is.
You always play a good game. You don't play
it's the biggest game in the country. We're probably playing a top 10 type team that day.
And this is going to be a quick segment, but I want to run these down. Okay, I'm not going to make you predict them, even though I think that'd be more fun. Yeah. Here's the number 2 in the SEC. I will let you predict some of these. Who do you think number 2
Game Day appearances? Number 2?
Yeah. Don't spend a lot of time. Go right off the top of your head.
LSU.
No. Florida, 42.
Wow.
All right. I'm going to include Texas and Oklahoma, just FYI, for the rest of this list. So who's number 3? You can't pause. Oklahoma is right, 40. Who's number 4?
LSU.
Georgia, 34. But they're tied with LSU at 34. So kind of sort of.
Okay.
Who's number 6 then? Because LSU or Georgia would be 4 and 5.
Probably somebody like Texas.
Nope. Tennessee at 24. Auburn at 23. Texas 22.
Wow,
And
that's
2
shocking.
of them. No, wait a minute. I would guess game day would include the national championship between Alabama and Texas in 09.
I don't know if they're counting. Are they counting national
Yeah.
championships?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so 3 of them.
No wonder our number's so big.
Because wasn't Texas last year in Austin? That was game day.
Yes, that was game day.
3 of the Texas 22 are with us.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If Texas didn't have us, they ain't nothing.
Sure, they love hearing that.
That's pretty cool. I mean, look, I just love when we can pull out stats that show Bama domination and blue-bloodedness. Right. When people love to say, oh, a lot of that was a while back ago, or without Nick Saban, or blah, blah, blah. Here's another stat that how about this one? Georgia won their 25th game in a row in the SEC yesterday against Florida, right? The 3 longest streaks in SEC history of teams winning games, not SEC games only, winning total games. Alabama owns the top 3. 2 at 28. One of those came under the Gene Stallings era. One of them came under the Bryant era. And then number 3, I guess, because those would be 1 and 2 tied. Number 3 is Alabama at 26 under Nick Saban, 15-16. That's pretty doggone amazing. Now, Georgia may pass us because, they don't really – I mean, I guess they could lose at Tennessee, but they'll definitely – I don't know who they play next week, but always Missouri. I mean, I guess they could lose next week, but they won't. But
I don't think they're going to lose to Missouri or Ole Miss, but I do think they could lose on the road in Knoxville.
Could, but what I'm saying is, when people say they love Alabama's foundation is built on a lot of old records and stuff, no, it's not. I mean, we dominate in so many areas of this thing, and we should embrace that. Jimmy, we're going to go ahead and break again here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the rankings release and maybe just a little bit about the SEC on the whole. Right now, I need to tell everybody about PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. So I'm going to put up the PrizePicks overlay. Here it is right here. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege. You want to go there and try them. This is so much fun. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in all of North America. They're easily the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. PrizePicks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. You just select 2 or more players. You can go up to 6. Pick more or less than their projected stats and place your entry. And a lot of time they have these awesome deals about certain players that you feel like it's easy. Testing my skills on PrizePicks this football season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. There's no doubt about it. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the number 1 daily fantasy sports app of anybody out there. Look, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It is awesome, and you will love it. PrizePicks is just a ton of fun. So go check out prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use that promo code LockedOnCollege. All right. So, Jimmy, now we can talk a little bit about the rankings coming out. You said you had done some homework about this, so I'm just going to roll it out there because the rankings coming out Tuesday is a big deal.
It is, and a couple things. I think Alabama might be a little higher than they are in the polls, which is interesting because the AP poll, coaches poll, as of Luke and I are recording this, we haven't seen the AP poll or the coaches poll that's coming out shortly. But I think Alabama could or will rank higher in the CFP poll simply because Alabama's analytics are so strong. In fact, amongst the top 13 teams, and there's only 13 teams left that are either undefeated or have 1 loss, just 13, Alabama has played the toughest or second toughest schedule among that entire group of 13, along with Texas. And it's kind of funny because Texas' schedule is super strong because they played Alabama, and Alabama's schedule is super strong because they played Texas. But both Alabama and Texas have the strongest record, so you can expect them to both be higher than you would think. I don't believe Georgia will be number 1. I think their strength of schedule is just too low. I expect the number 1 team, in fact, I'll even bet on it. The number 1 team will be Ohio State, who's played the toughest schedule of the undefeated teams by quite a good bit. I think Florida State may be number 2. Ohio State 1, Florida State 2, Georgia 3, Washington 4. with the fifth. That's how I think it's going to go. I think Texas is going to be the highest ranked one-loss team. Alabama right behind them. But when you look at the analytics, Alabama is going to be higher than people think. But again, Ohio State should probably be the number one team. Their strength of record is the best in the country. They've just played the toughest schedule of that undefeated bunch.
Yeah, I agree, and I would put Ohio State 1 probably myself. I think so. I think after this past weekend, I would put Georgia 2. I was tempted to put Georgia lower, but I think
eyeball test. Georgia's passing with flying colors.
Yeah.
But how much is that going to weigh against the numbers? Michigan. One more thing to look for. Interesting. Michigan, I would say, is going to be last of all the undefeated teams, but that's also based on their schedule. They'll be last. And you wonder if they're going to take any hit at all for the sign stealing. So will Texas with 1 loss be ahead of Michigan? Will Alabama with 1 loss be ahead of Michigan? I think that's something to look for, possibly.
There's going to be a lot of people with a terrible case of red ass if Texas and Alabama are ahead of Michigan. Now, I think and I know that if Texas and or Alabama lined up to play Michigan this weekend, I bet it's at worst to pick them. I mean, so we know that Alabama's played much. I mean, it's not even close. A much tougher gauntlet. So is Texas. So they should get credit for that, but they do have the blemish. I mean, and the Michigan thing. Look, I'm going to say it again. The NCAA, if you want to reassert some power, if you want to give some people some faith in you again, make an example of Michigan as quickly as possible. Don't screw around with this thing. Don't screw around with it and give them something this summer. Don't do that. You got to handle this now, because if they've been doing what you think they've been doing, that has affected everything, and it's got to change. Jimmy, we were going to talk a little bit about the state of the SEC. We're going to hold that talk off. Instead, we will talk about that tomorrow on Locked on Bama. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.